Hi everyone. My name is Richie Ramsden. Today I'm going to talk about digital disruption in AkzoNobel, and in particular our innovation incubator where I work. So this is me. This is obviously before the COVID crisis, because I'm wearing a tie, and everyone else is a lot more informal now. I think we've all learned our children's bedtimes, and we've seen the pets as they walk across the camera and things. So I'm the head of data science within the innovation incubator within AkzoNobel. I'm also a fellow of the National Innovation Centre for Data. So the National Innovation Centre for Data is a government and University of Newcastle funded initiative. It's a £50 million initiative to upskill industry in innovation around data science. So things like learning how to do projects yourself, understanding the types of skills you need in order to do a project, but also doing a project alongside someone who's really highly skilled as well, and learning how to do it again when you come back in your organisation. So AkzoNobel is a really big paint company. We're quite an old company. You might have heard of some of our brands. So there's Dulux and Sikkens that are both decorative coatings, and then International Paint, which is a protective coatings brand. So we paint boats and bridges and just about everything in between. So AkzoNobel can trace its roots all the way back to 1646 in Sweden. So I think we can kind of really say that we're a really old traditional company, and really our business models and the way that we do business hasn't really changed since then. It's about manufacturing and selling coatings that do a job. Some other things about AkzoNobel. So we've got about 34,000 people worldwide in about 150 countries. So again, that shows we are quite traditional. We've got these traditional business models, but we are quite a big company and a large reach. And now, in terms of digital transformation and disruption from a digital place, we're a kind of a ripe candidate, if you like, to have our business models disrupted, because we're large, we're traditional, and the business models we have are transactional. But we are kind of unusual as well in some respects. So we also have an art foundation. So if you go to artfoundation.akzonobel.com, we have a small gallery in our headquarters, in the ground floor of our headquarters in Amsterdam. Obviously, we can't go there now, but you can take a virtual tour of some of the artworks there. So even though we're a traditional company, we do things a little bit different as well. So kind of the theme around all of this stuff is about disruption, and we can say, and we've all been saying for a while, disruption's coming. We've been saying, do we want to be a kind of a Kodak that gets disrupted and pushed out of the market, or do we want to be a kind of an IBM that disrupts ourselves and moves into a completely different way of doing business? Now, there's one thing that's a guarantee: disruption is coming, and disruption is probably here for a lot of businesses as well. So what we decided to do to try and stay ahead of this disruption, try and understand how it could present as an opportunity rather than a challenge, is to start this innovation incubator. So the innovation incubator is a group of small people internally. We're an invest part of the company, so we don't have our own profits and loss. And what we do is we try and act like a startup. We try and take on new innovations that potentially are different, that could lead to new business models, and we try and de-risk them as much as possible. So our kind of main target for the innovation incubator is about being the direct and indirect source of 10% of AkzoNobel's revenue by 2025. That's really important to have a statement like that, so we have something to aim for, but it's also a statement of intent to say, this is what we're going to do. This is how seriously we're taking digital disruption as well as disruption from the outside. Now, the direct and indirect bit is really about the direct bit is about creating our own business models and our own new products that maybe markets don't exist yet. And then the indirect part is partnering with our business units, partnering with customers to try and generate new revenue in a different way with them. So we kind of do that through a bunch of skills that we have in the innovation incubator. So We're experts in innovation, in co-creating innovation, and developing different thoughts about innovation in different ways. Partnerships and networks are really important to us. So all the ventures that we run with either an internal AkzoNobel or an external partner. We also use a load of tools like the Lean Startup. So there's a business model canvas, things like that. And we try and be really agile with and fast with the way that we develop new value propositions. And then lastly, within the incubator, we have a group of data scientists. So that's the team that I lead. So experts in things like machine vision, predictive modeling, AI, machine learning, things like that. So this is the innovation incubator, and these are the kinds of things that we do. So when you think about transformative innovation, you have to kind of benchmark that against other forms of innovation. So you can see on this chart here, we've got kind of how to win across the bottom, and then where to play up the side. So within the core innovation area, that's kind of things that are iterative innovations that we do every day. So, for example, we come up with a new color of paint, or we come up with a kind of coating that that has better overcoating, or it has better pot life, or things like that. So that's core innovation. And actually, as a traditional company who knows a lot about color and a lot about paints and coatings, we're really, really good at that. We're great at that core innovation. We're also really good at adjacent innovation. So that's about trying to figure out where else can we put our coatings, where can we place them, how can we get the message, how can we drive ourselves differently, but still staying true to the kinds of products we've got and the kinds of people that we're trying to provide value for. And an example for adjacent innovation is the AkzoNobel's Dulux app. So if you go onto the App Store, you can have a look at it. It's an augmented reality app. You can take a photo or a video of your room, and then you can color the walls different colors. So you can look at how the color actually looks in your room before you buy it. So that's a similar place to play, if you like. We're trying to talk to the same customers, but we're doing it in a slightly different way. We're trying to use digital tools in a kind of a disruptive manner, but in an adjacent market to where we are. Excuse me. The last form of innovation that we have is this transformational innovation, and that's really where the incubator comes in. So this is about developing new products or new services, and then new markets to apply them in. And this kind of transformational innovation is really how a company like ours can grow, and how we can disrupt ourselves a little bit, so that to make sure that we are still a company that's around in the next 200 years. So the kind of things we use within the innovation incubator, we use the innovation story canvas to try and capture innovation. We use things like value proposition canvas, business model canvas to try and capture these innovations and move in a really agile and quick manner. So you won't hear anyone in the innovation incubator talking about a 15-page kind of business plan, because we want to have working documents like the value proposition canvas and the business model canvas. We want to have them on the wall, and we want to be testing our assumptions, and every time we test an assumption, we want to be changing that business model and molding it so it becomes something that really has validity. And the other thing that we do, and we do this constantly with all of our ventures, is to think about three things. So truly disruptive digital innovation has high uncertainty in it. Now, if it didn't have high uncertainty in it, we'd already be doing it. So figuring out where that uncertainty is, and then being able to test it and try and minimize the uncertainty, that's really crucial in this kind of thing. So testing desirability in terms of whether people really want the solution, viability in terms of whether there's a business model there that we can make revenue from, and then feasibility in terms of technically delivering the solution. We're constantly looking at those three things, and we're constantly testing ourselves. Where is the area of largest uncertainty, and then what do we do? What's the experiment we need to do in order to minimize that uncertainty? So what we really do, if you think about it graphically, is we put a load of obstacles in the way of our ideas. We really sweat the ideas. So we're trying to kill them. We're trying to say, well, what's the thing that will really stop this idea being any good? Let's make a test out of that and let's test it. Excuse me. Do customers really want it? Can we really build it? Is there really a business model here? Is there anything already in the market that's done here that can provide this kind of value? So by putting all these obstacles in the place of this idea, we're trying to make sure that we know the ideas that are going to fail and they fail fast, and then we move on to another idea. So one really crucial thing with the Innovation Incubator is about vision. And we've heard it already, but being able to say this is our vision of where the Innovation Incubator can be, and we can talk about it internally and externally, and it means that we've got the place that we're heading to, we've got the signpost, and it means that because we've got this vision of where we want to be, we can figure out the ways that we want to get there. We can figure out our strategy to arrive at this place. So we have this as a vision, direct and indirect source of 10% of revenue. But then we have a strategy that sits between us and that vision by 2025 in order to create that revenue and achieve that vision. So taking a load of ideas, we have to be strict about the ones which require the Innovation Incubator to work on them, and the ones which are actually kind of ideas that can be shipped straight away. So quite often when you're founding things like an Innovation Incubator or a new digital team, it's quite often that other business units, other departments can think, oh great, that's a place where I can put my digital innovation as well, because I'm struggling to get traction with it. So being really strict about the ideas that come into the Innovation Incubator and that get our help is really crucial. So things like predictive maintenance for manufacturing, scraping of Twitter data and things like that in order to look at customer experience. They're ideas that already exist. They're ideas that there are companies that can help you with that. The desirability is there, the viability is there, and the feasibility. They're all there. There's low uncertainty in any of those ideas. So they're not Innovation Incubator projects. They're projects that should be done in the business units, and we can support and help those guys in the business units do them. But actually, we should be focusing our efforts on these much more high uncertainty ideas and doing the sweating of the ideas that we do. So in order to get ideas in order to get ideas that we can say this one we can ship straight away, this one we need to sweat a little bit more, we use something called the Innovation Story Canvas. Now this is a really great way excuse me, of getting people engaged in digital innovation. So people have ideas all the time, especially around big companies like ours. People are really engaged with generating new digital ideas. And actually, people are reading about digital things. They're reading about blockchain. They're reading about AI. They read about autonomous cars, autonomous shipping, and they want to be. They're coming up with ideas, and they want to be part of that as well. Now, one way we can capture that ideas really quickly and figure out what we can do with them is to use this innovation story canvas. Now, quite often when you have a conversation with someone who's got an idea, they jump straight into the how, and they say, I'm going to take this data and I'm going to build a model and it's going to tell me this thing. So using the innovation story canvas as a structure to have conversations which work back along that. So we start with how, but actually, so what is it you're actually delivering, and why you're delivering that, and who's the person that gets value for that? It flips the conversation on its head, so that we come out with something from the innovation story canvas that's really easy to understand. It's really easy to talk to senior stakeholders about, and it's really easy to pitch as well. If you're doing the who, why, what straight away, it's understandable. So the innovation story canvas is a great way of capturing innovation and figuring out whereabouts it needs to land in an organization, and if it's the incubator or whether it's BUs or not. Another way to do that, to understand where ideas could come from, or another way to understand how we could be disruptive, is to look at megatrends. So what we can do is get a bunch of megatrends together. So like I said before, so blockchain, AI, virtual reality, things like that. And we can map on this megatrend roadmap. Where do we think these things could have an impact? When do we think they're going to have an impact? And then we come up with a product or a service based on that megatrend on this roadmap. Now they're all potential ideas. They're all potential products or services that we could offer as a company if we wanted to get involved in this megatrend. Now, that doesn't mean that we have to. All it means is it's an exercise in trying to figure out what could this megatrend, what could this new technology, what could this new data science, if you like, if that's a route you're going down, how could that affect us as a company, and do we want to be involved in it? So so there's kind of two ways there internally that we're taking new ideas, and we're trying to figure out where to place them quickly, and then we're deliberately forcing ourselves to think about how we could be disrupted from some of these megatrends. Now, there is a third way that we can kind of get innovations and start working on within Innovation Incubator, and actually we do this already. So this is about external open innovation. So we have a brand called Paint the Future, and if you go on letspaintthefuture.com, you'll see it. It's an innovation platform where people can go with ideas, and they can look at other people's ideas, and they can comment on them, enrich them, think about new ideas maybe on there, and we can also create challenges around certain themes, and then invite people to work with us to kind of create new innovations and new business models. So last year we did a global challenge, and over 2 months we got 160 new innovations put in. We've got this innovation community of 1,300 people who are going on there, looking at ideas, submitting ideas, and then also enriching ideas. So 1,700 enrichments on 160 new innovations. So that's people going on and saying, this is a great idea, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that, here's another area you could do it, have we thought about this, have we looked at this kind of so it's this really vibrant innovation community happening around Paint the Future. And then this year we've launched a regional challenge as well. So we're going to do a series of regional challenges in different places around the world. So the global challenge was last year to launch Paint the Future. Excuse me. And then this year we're looking at a Brazil challenge, and that ran for a couple of months earlier this year. And we're actually working with a bunch of partners now that came out of that Brazil challenge to generate new business models and new ideas, same as we did for 2019. So we had a bunch, maybe 30 or 40 ideas where we're working really strongly with people external to our company now, developing these new value propositions. So I get this question quite a lot. I get this question internally as well as people talking to me from externally as well, and in NICD. But when will disruption happen in our industry? So people are really concerned about disruption, and like I said, we're in a more traditional paint and coatings business, but we still want to know when disruption is going to happen. We want to know where disruption is going to come from. The reality is, I think, and if this year's teaching us anything at all, is that disruption's already happening. It's already been disrupted, and COVID-19 is the big disruptor this year. And I don't think we could talk about digital transformation, we couldn't talk about disruptive innovation without talking about COVID-19, because it's had such a profound effect on people in terms of their jobs, in terms of people becoming poorly, and unfortunately losing people as well. It's had such a profound effect on investment as well. So investing in innovation, investing in digital transformation initiatives has been really tough recently as well, and that's because of the economy as well. So it's been majorly disruptive on the economy. So all of our companies are having to try and think differently about how we manage this situation, keep our companies going, keep our people healthy, keep the investments rolling as well. But equally, we can think of COVID-19 and the crisis that's come around it as an opportunity for digital disruption as well. So the flag you could put in the top of this, the really big opportunity, is that COVID-19 has probably been the biggest digital upskilling in history. Suddenly, from a people point of view, everybody can use Zoom or Teams or Skype. People are talking to friends and family that they haven't seen for a while because they live in other places around the world, but they're doing it because they've been upskilled. Same as investment. Investment doesn't have to be standing in front of somebody and pitching an idea anymore. investment can be online, it can be online pitching, it can be all these other things. And then similarly with the economy as well, all of these new digital upskilling that's happening, all these new skills that people are learning, they can feed into a new economy, and they can feed into the economy of your company as well. So taking home that as the big opportunity, I think, is what I'd really like to talk about. And is disruption coming? Well, disruption's here, but if we follow these kind of disciplines, if we follow these kind of rules, we will be ready for whatever disruption comes next. Thanks.
Talking through the Innovation Incubator. We're now going to be bringing Richie in live to answer a few questions for 15 minutes or so. So just waiting for Richie to come into the room for that. Richie, I can see that you're on our system. If you just want to get your camera mic going, and then we can kick off the Q&A. Whilst we're waiting for that, just kind of want to run through this morning agenda for anyone that's joined in the last half an hour before they saw the welcome notes. So we have 5 more presentations this morning coming from Xerox, Parkinson's UK, the Parliamentary Digital Service, Microsoft, and Imperial War Museums. We're running today, day 2, until 1 o'clock, so do stick around for that. I can see Richie is now joining us. So,
hiya, Chris. You okay?
Yeah, I'm great. Thanks. How about you? Thanks for a great presentation. Really nice to hear what you're doing and the successes kind of coming from that. So thanks for sharing the story.
Great, thanks. Yeah, sorry if I have to mute myself to cough a little bit as well. My children went back to school and they've brought some sort of lurgy home, so I'm struggling with that a little bit. But I hope it's not the lurgy.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, fingers crossed on that one. So I guess let's go back to the start, looking at the Innovation Incubator. When was that formed?
So, kind of officially we were formed in 2018, January 2018, but we'd kind of been working on it for 18 months, 2 years before that.
Yeah.
We knew we wanted to do something around disruptive business models. We knew we wanted to turbocharge the kinds of new business models we were looking at.
Yeah.
But I think as anyone who's tried to do anything disruptive within a big company knows, you have to build a consensus. You have to get everybody aligned with it. Getting those guys in the C-suite, getting them involved in it, and them thinking it's a good idea. That's the way that you get the momentum to sort of change these kind of things.
Of course, and kind of answered part of my next question on that. With regards to getting the C-suite involved and senior leadership, was what were the challenges there? Obviously, it's always difficult to get buy-in. I think yesterday we talked about a lot of disconnect between innovation IT and kind of the general business leaders, finance, and things like that. What was the main challenges in kind of getting this set up?
Yeah, that's a really good point, that kind of disconnect. And actually, sometimes it can be hard with companies that are concentrating on doing what they do best, doing the business that they do.
Yeah.
I think identifying the people on the C-suite who are kind of more open to these kind of things is a really, really great way of doing it.
Yeah.
Going through CTO, that's a really good way as well, because these guys are used to investing in new ideas, and actually equally invested in new ideas, but also being quite comfortable with what we call failure, but is really a great learning opportunity. So these guys are constantly funding projects, initiatives, investments that actually sometimes just don't pan out. They don't come off. So they're comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I think as well, I think it's worth not aiming too high. I mean, we talked to our the CEO of the company. We tried to talk about the kinds of innovation we were doing anyway, and we actually tried to get some use cases together. So we had a couple of good innovation projects that were use cases around potential new business models, especially around data science. Using the internal kind of structures of communication is a really good way of doing it. So trying to promote these ideas, promote these use cases as much as you can. And actually, I think if there's internal awards or internal kind of recognition routes, use as much of them as you can.
Yeah.
I probably would say that when you're trying to establish something like an incubator, or if you're trying to establish a new digital kind of transformation area, communication's a really, really big thing. So if you can spend loads and loads and loads of time communicating, then you're in a really good place.
Yeah.
I spoke to a lady who was also looking after a digital incubator in a different company in the banking sector, and she said for the first 6 months of being around, she just spent all the time going to meetings with cakes and just delivering cake every time there's a meeting. Bring cakes, and eventually you get known as a cake lady, but everybody knows who you are and what you're doing, and they're saying, "Who's this lady who brings cakes?" And you get to talk about what you're trying to achieve. So trying to trying to use the ways that you can communicate this stuff is really, really vital.
Nice. And then the actual innovation incubator, where does that sit within the organization? So with traditional departments, you have you have a traditional kind of structure. You've got your IT department, you've got your finance department. Where does the kind of the innovation incubator sit? Does it sit like alongside these? Does it I know you kind of take the ideas in. Are you siloed against those? What's kind of the setup in terms of that structure?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. There's a kind of a dichotomy there about protecting the some higher risk ideas or some more
Yeah.
uncertain ideas, and protecting them from the buffeting of the winds of a business. But there's also, you have to stay connected. You have to make sure that these ideas feel part of the company. Otherwise, it feels like a separate thing that's being run somewhere else, and
Yeah.
it doesn't get the attention or the reputation that it needs. So what we try and do is every single project that we run, we have a BU partner. So someone in the business units who really, really wants it. If they don't want it, if there's no buy-in, okay, that's fine. That we've got more projects than we can do anyway. So let's find something where people really want to change. Um, it's a really good question as well, particularly around data science. Where does data science sit? So
Yeah.
we, an incubator, we sit underneath the CTO because we're an invest part of the business. We're not got our own profit and loss,
Yeah.
but equally we have to be aware that we're enabled by IT. Okay,
Yeah.
so being part of IT, again, sometimes doesn't work because there's all the maelstrom that goes with IT and with the profits and loss and the support and everything like that. But there's a bunch of different places around the company that enable us to do what we do, and we have to make sure that the connections are there. I know it's a bit of a kind of a cliche to say, people need to be inside the tent and stuff, but if people feel invested in it, it doesn't matter. I don't think whether you're in IT or whether you're in finance or whether you're in a business unit. If you're invested in something, if you think it's a good idea and you're engaged in it,
Yeah.
then you give your time or you give your advice or you work together to make it happen. So the biggest bit of advice probably I would give if you're establishing an incubator is to take that time to try and engage with people as much as possible.
Nice. That's a really good answer. Thanks for that. And we've got a few coming in from the online audience. One from Jean-Luc here. Can you explain the axes, where to play and how to win? So going back to that slide where you had the little graph, the framework.
Yeah,
And it says, can you explain where to play and how to win? Where to play makes sense as a scale from core to transformational, but more on the how to win side.
yeah. So we think of how to win as what our business models are. So in the core sense, we sell paint to people who want to buy paint. So whether it's a guy who's building a boat or somebody who's painting the shed,
Yeah.
it's a traditional transactional one-on-one selling of a tin of paint and then leaving. Now, moving slightly into the middle of that kind of axis, I mentioned the Dulux Visualizer app. So that's a slightly different way to try and reach the same customers. So
Yeah.
providing an augmented reality application where you can kind of real time change the color of your walls and decide which color you want. That's a different way to reach the same audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you think about all the way on that transformational axis, all the way to the end, we're talking about performance-based models rather than transactional paint models. So, for example, if we've got if you want to paint something because you want it to be protected about corrosion, so instead of buying some paint from us, going and painting it, and then coming back, 20 years later and saying, "Hey, we need more paint. Can you sell some more?" What about if we rent the protection of that surface to you? So instead of selling you a load of paint, we sell you the protection, and then it's up to us as a company to take on the risk of understanding the protection. At what point does the protection need to be changing? So it's just thinking about how we can position what we do in terms of value for the customer in a slightly different way.
Yeah.
Because actually, if we're all being honest, unless you really like painting, paint's a bit of a pain. You just want the wall to be the right color for you, and you want to look at it and think, yeah, it looks really good. Or you want your asset to be protected so you can forget about that and get on with the business of doing something else. So what we're trying to do with the incubator is figure out which parts of that can we take and can we help the customers with.
Nice. That's a really good answer. Thanks for that. And then another one in from Deck Hutchings. Who brings the ideas forward to the Innovation Hub, and how is this culture encouraged within the enterprise and other divisions? I think that's in reference the slide where you say, you get ideas and you're quite strict on what comes in and what you kind of deal with there.
Oh yeah. So the ideas can kind of come from anywhere. They can come from people who are already in our company. They can come from externally. So we talked about Paint the Future. We talked about getting ideas in from people around the company and using the innovation story canvas to try and get them kind of defined. So we have some internal innovation capture routes. We've got the Paint the Future thing. Each of these ways is a different way to collect ideas, if you like, to put ideas into one place. We do have to be really strict because inherently an incubator isn't as large as the rest of the company. We have to be really strict about the ones that we want to work on. Now, and this is really crucial as well. What we're not talking about is some guy saying, "I've got an idea," and us saying, "Right, we'll have that. Go back to your own job, and I'm going to do it." We're definitely not talking about that. So, if there's one thing to take back from this, it's about engagement and empowerment of everybody. So, we do a rotational kind of secondment in the incubator as well. So people can come to the incubator for 6 months. We work with them. We train them on lean startup. We train them on design thinking. We work on their project or a different project together.
Yeah.
And then when they go back to their existing role, they've gone armed with all these new ways of thinking about innovation. Plus, we've got this really strong connection between us and them. So we're creating this kind of hub and spoke where all these people are doing really innovative things in different ways. I think the way that you can truly transform a company is to create a place where people can go, like an incubator. But equally, it doesn't work if all that transformation happens just in the incubator. It has to happen in other places, in other business units as well.
Yeah, nice. I'm going back to that hub and spoke. We heard about that yesterday, and I think it's quite a popular kind of model for doing things like this. So interesting.
Yeah, and I think, to be honest, I think as well, particularly from a data science point of view, in a lot of companies that are trying to kind of start to do a bit more in data science, you'll find lots of pockets of innovation and data science happening everywhere. Now, there's a couple of ways you can support that happening. You can put initiatives in place to try and develop these people a bit, but actually having a place centrally where you can say, this is the best practice for doing data science or transformative innovation. This is the skills that we need. Come here, we'll teach you, and then let's keep that relationship going. It's not we train you and then you disappear and that's it. It's about a mentoring relationship, and that's a really good way of starting that kind of formalizing that kind of innovation work or data science work.
Yeah, good stuff. And then you mentioned about the 10% of revenue indirect, direct by 2025 to be coming from the Innovation Incubator. I mean, how's that now looking as the pandemic kind of put a bit of a spanner in the works with that, or are you still looking to kind of achieve that goal, because it's quite an ambitious target. It's a great target to have, and it's really good that you've put that on yourselves. But how kind of realistic might that be moving forward, just, with everything going on?
Yeah, it is. It's got more tricky, and when I talked at the end about the impact COVID's had, particularly
Yeah,
on investment and on innovation and people, because that's the real tragedy of this. I think is that um, you know really good people end up find themselves out of work
yeah,
because of the contraction in the economy. AkzoNobel's a company that have we've got a really diverse portfolio. So we've got things like Dulux and protective coatings and ships and things like that. So we fared pretty well. And actually, some of the innovation work that happened at the end of last year has set us up really well um, for what's happened this year. So we created an e-commerce site at the start of this year that was launched in order to sell Dulux online, and we'd never done that before. We were kind of experimenting with this as a new way of delivering coatings, and actually that's been really good for us because more people are at home now than were
yeah,
before. People have got more disposable income because they're not going on holiday, they're not going out, things like that. So actually, some parts of our business have done pretty well out of it.
yeah,
In terms of the innovation incubator, we do find that external partners are contracting a lot. They don't necessarily want to move as fast as they used to, which is fine as well. And I think we have to be pragmatic about it. I think
yeah,
we have to think if this is no longer a viable option, we've got another bunch of potential innovation, transformative ideas that we could pick up. So if we're finding that a couple of the innovations aren't moving as fast, that's fine. We have to be respectful to our partners, but let's pick up
yeah,
some others and work on them instead. There's also, we're trying to think about different ways of doing it as well. So different ways of working with startups, and that was the whole thing about Paint the Future. And just because we've finished Paint the Future last year and we've got one in Brazil this year, doesn't mean that Paint the Future stops. Paint the Future is a way for any open innovation external to AXO to come and start talking about ideas and things like that. And actually, we've seen a bit of an upsurge in ideas coming in because I think some companies are thinking about, my core business is struggling a little bit, so where else can I find opportunities? And those
yeah,
people that are trying to find new opportunities in the maelstrom of this crisis, they're kind of the people that we're finding now, I think.
yeah. Well, look, Richie, thanks so much for joining us live and for taking the time to do the presentation recording the other day.
That's okay.
Really nice,
Thanks.
yeah, really nice presentation. Some great insights, and I'm sure there's some good insights there for anyone looking to establish an innovation incubator, or on the road to doing so. So, thanks for sharing your thoughts and for allowing me to put some questions forward to you. I really appreciate that, and best of luck moving forward. I'm actually moving house myself at the end of the month, so I'll need to probably be doing some painting. So
Okay, good.
yeah, so good stuff. All right,
Great.
Richie.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, thanks so much, and real
Thanks.
pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Bye.
Cheers, bye.